Mr. Johnson, you often define a racist and their behavior. Please, could you speak to us about the nature of a racist? What makes them such, and what is their nature?
Okay, well, I think the first thing to do is to define a racist. Generally speaking, when we talk about a racist, and if we're focusing on individual racism, for example, we say that a racist is a person that essentializes another person on the basis of race. You see, to essentialize is to assume that this person is inferior to you, largely based on color. It can be based on other things, culture, intelligence, blood, soul, whatever you want to do, but you are essentializing the other person. And so you discriminate against them, you see, by essentializing them and imagining that somehow you're superior to them. So that's a basic definition of what a racist is. But it doesn't actually tell us much about the nature of a racist, you see. So let's look a little bit about that, and I think that's what you're trying to allude to there. Now, a racist, when they do those things I just mentioned, is a morally reprehensible person, you see. Some scholars actually say that they are mentally disturbed, you see. So they're morally reprehensible, they're mentally disturbed, because they can't see the humanity in another person. Imagine if you're classified as white and you can't see the humanity in a person classified as black, so to speak. You're struggling with that. That means that you don't have humanity yourself. You lack humanity yourself because you can't see the humanity in others. You see? So this is a dangerous thing. This is an emotional thing. This is a spiritual thing. You see? And we often understand this, or I certainly understand it, in terms of other people in our history. Take, for example, Charles Darwin. There's huge amounts of evidence, for example, that Charles Darwin is a racist. He said huge amounts of racist things. But then again, people say, well, you know, because his theory laid the foundation for biology, we should overlook the racism. Well, I would say, no, you can't overlook the racism, because this is the makeup of the person's emotional state of being, which they're projecting the worst of their character onto you. You see? It's the same with Immanuel Kant, the West's great philosopher who wrote the Critique of Reason. So he wrote the Critique of Reason, which lays the basis for liberal democratic theory. But he also wrote, which a lot of people overlook, is what he called his moral geography. Moral geography was basically a diatribe against blacks and other non-whites. It was race science. It was white supremacy. You see, he went out of his way to speak about notions of colour. In fact, he had a developed theory of colour. He actually believed that in colour itself there was notions of inferiority and superiority, that colour itself coded superiority. And therefore he believed that white people were human. So this is in Kant. Now what people tried to do, white people were human while other people were not. But what people tried to do is say, well, he wrote the Critique of Reason, okay, he wrote some racist stuff, but we should just focus on the good stuff. No, you can't. You can't separate the racism from the person who is emotionally racist. You won't be able to do that. You see, and Kant himself actually said, you can't separate my moral geography, that's his race science, from my moral theory, you see. And later in his life, of course, people are quick to tell you that he was against slavery. And he did go on to speak about that, and he spoke about the rights of the right to life. All the right to life is the right to live, but that doesn't essentially give the huge amounts of non-white people on this planet the right to a good life, to a right to the equality and fairness. It's just the right to live, which is what you give animals, you see. So you cannot separate the moral racism, the psychological and the intellectual racism that a person had from anything good that they claim they did within the same period. You can't really separate that. It's the same with Marx, you see. Now a lot of people see the world through Marx's eyes. Marx was a racist. He said that black people are degenerate niggers. That's what he called us. But we're supposed to overlook that because he has a theory about capitalism. Well, you can't separate that because he's a racist and therefore he's morally reprehensible. Therefore anything he puts out is in question. And I believe that that's what we should do. You can't be a racist and then suddenly we just accept what you do. You can't do it. It's not right. I don't believe in it.